Hello students, welcome to Royal Palace PU College Jamkhandi online classes. Dear students, we have already started a chapter and I think we are in the middle of this chapter. The chapter name is Biological Classification and we were studying about a topic called as Kingdom Protista. In the previous video, we studied about the characteristics of Kingdom Protista. And then we even studied half of the classification of the Kingdom Protista. In that, we finished two classifications or two types of members of Kingdom Protista, such as the first one as the Chrysophyta and the another one as the Dinoflagellates. Dear students, I hope that you are understanding these online classes. I hope you are recording all these things. I hope you are underlining the important concepts and you should be remembering these things. All these are very needed for the sake of theory and our competitive exams also. So, like I was telling you about Kingdom Protista, that it has some basic features such as it is still unicellular in nature, which means that the body is made up of only one cell. But there is an improvement in this single cell only, such as the presence of nuclear membrane or a true nucleus, which means that these are eukaryotes in nature. So, one common point that the protistans are unicellular and eukaryotic organisms in nature. The members of a protista have got different characteristics and these characteristics mingle or they are even present in Kingdom Plantae, Kingdom Animalia and even Kingdom Fungi or Mycota. That's why it is one of the you can say that this is as a cumbersome or it is a little dilemmatic or it is a confusing kingdom because the organisms of these kingdoms show wide variety of characteristics resembling to other 2 to 3 kingdoms also. Now, that we studied previously, let us enter into the third category called as the euglenoids. Now, dear students, once again I am telling you, in case of classification of Kingdom Protista, we have finished already about the chrysophytes and then the second one as dinoflagellates, both themselves as important sections. Once again, today's topic is the euglenoids, the third variety of Kingdom Protista. Now, while looking at it, let us go to some of the basic characteristics. And what are those characteristics? The first one says that majority of these organisms are freshwater organisms. They are found in the stagnant water. First thing, what are freshwater organisms? The organisms whose life, whose habitat, whose reproduction takes place in the freshwater. What do you mean by freshwater? As I explained in my previous video only, the water wherein which the concentration of salt is 0 or less, wherein which the concentration of minerals and other contents are equivalent to the marine water. What is a marine water? Marine water are that kind of water conditions wherein which the salinity or salt concentration is more. So these are freshwater organisms and these are found in the stagnant water. Let me repeat that these are freshwater organisms and they are found in the stagnant water. Now the meaning of stagnant water means static water. The example for a basic example of a stagnant water is pond ecosystem. Pond is the one wherein which inflow of the water might take, but there will not be any movement of the water which can be moving like rivers, like oceans, etc. It is a stagnant, it is a static, it is a stationary water wherein which the living organisms can grow and enrich their lives. Now, coming to the second point, that is the important point here. Instead of a cell wall, they have a protein rich layer called as pellicle, which makes their body flexible. Sir, what is the meaning of this particular line? Generally, each and every organism having their own cell wall concentrations. Some organisms might not be having, but the majority organisms we can see that particular cell wall surrounding, and that is protective in nature. It helps in exchange of molecules, nutrients, ions from the neighboring cells and even from the neighboring organisms also. Now, variety of explanations can be there with respect to the cell wall composition, but here we do not find that particular content of cell wall. Instead of that, we find that instead of in the place of cell wall or as a boundary, we see the presence of proteins. The presence of proteins encircle that particular cell organelles. That's why the name protein rich layer. The meaning of rich layer means that there is not only a single protein content, there will be groups of proteins which are surrounded or surrounding these cell organelle contents. And these protein rich layers are generally named as pellicle. Remember, the word is pellicle. You might ask a question relating to this one. What do you mean by pellicle? Pellicle is nothing but the mass of protein layer which is found in the place of cell walls of the euglenoid organisms. These are generally flexible. The meaning of flexible, that they can bend their body like anything. Now, this flexibility is done by the presence of these particular and specific protein rich layers, and that is called as pellicle. Now, the first one is that these are found in the fresh water places or the stagnant water or the pond water generally, and these are flexible in nature because they contain the protein rich layer called as the pellicle, and these less having the cell wall composition or no in case of cell wall composition. Right? Now, let us go to the third category called as they have two flagella, which means that, as I mentioned in the previous explanation itself, flagella or pili or cilia are hair-like structures which help the organism to move from one place to another place. So generally, the members of the kingdom Protista have got flagella. Generally, some may not have, but generally they show the locomotion, as I explained in my previous video also. Now, the presence of two flagella makes them to move from one place to another place. This is the speciality wherein which we can say that these two flagellas, out of which one is smaller one and another one is the longer one. This is the basic example we can see. Now, next one, though they are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight, when deprived of sunlight, they behave like heterotrophs by predating on other smaller organisms. Here we see two types of characteristics, one as autotrophic character and another one as heterotrophic character. Now, one can ask a question, what do you mean by autotrophic character? You know it, students, it's very basic. Those organisms which can prepare their own food for their growth and development are called as autotrophic. They can utilize sunlight for this process, and they can utilize or convert those particular chemicals, and relating to that they can convert that thing as a source of food. But opposite to this, there is another gang called as heterotrophic organisms, and these organisms are not at all independent, these are dependent organisms and cannot synthesize their own food for their growth and development. So the point says here is that whenever there is a presence of sunlight, they behave like autotrophs. They use the sunlight and they do the work of the photosynthetic activity and converting that activity as a source of energy and food. But the word is deprived. Deprived means lack of sunlight or less sunlight or no sunlight. During these times, these organisms, they change themselves, like they were independent during autotrophic nature, that is during the presence of sunlight, and they convert themselves into dependent organisms or heterotrophic organisms feeding on other organisms. Okay students, now once again I am telling you that these show photosynthetic activity in the presence of sunlight, and these in case of deprived conditions means lack of sunlight or less sunlight or no sunlight at all. They behave like heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are nothing but the dependency on other organisms for their growth and development. Now, we'll go to the next point, and the point says the pigments of euglenoids are identical to those present in higher plants. And the question comes very simply, see, we are discussing the characteristics of Protista as if the members of Plantae, the members of Animalia and the members of fungi. That's why I told you in the beginning as one of the character that it is a connecting link to these kind of animals or organisms or plants or fungi, or it is having the characteristics of all these different types of organisms. Now, they even showed photosynthetic activity, which is the characteristics of Plantae. They even showed the characteristics of heterotrophic activity, which is the characteristics of animals. Like this, they are showing variety of characteristics resembling into different kingdoms. Okay, now the pigments of euglenoids. The word pigment means coloring agent. It is like if someone is appearing in white, it is the presence of a pigment. If someone is a dark or chocolatish in nature, it is the presence of a pigment, right? Likewise, there are so many kind of pigments, coloring agents. Remember, coloring agents which can be found in different animals and even in different plants also. So these pigments are similar. Identical means similar or same to same with respect to the higher plants. The higher plants can show variety of pigments such as chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a pigment which is generally green in nature. So those kind of pigments are also present even in case of euglenoids or kingdom Protistan euglenoid members. I repeat that the fifth point, as the pigments of euglenoids are identical, they are similar and they are present as if in case of higher plants of kingdom Plantae. They have even given an example called as euglena. Please do underline it, do make a specific note of it by saying that euglena has got the pigment characteristic similar to the higher plants that we see normally in our day-to-day life. Basic example as chlorophyll, etc., etc. Some even having xanthophylls, some even having fucoxanthin. Variety of pigments are there, right? We will be seeing, we will be studying, we will be understanding those pigments in case of chapter number 3, that is plant kingdom. Dear students, I hope you are getting these points in a specific way. Now, let us enter into the some of the photos. Whatever that you are seeing right now, it may be indication of some of the ciliated bodies, some of non-ciliated bodies, flagellated bodies, non-flagellated bodies, and these bodies show the movement from one place to another place. There are generally two flagella, as I mentioned. One is short and another one is small. Now this is euglena and having the characteristic color of green, as you can see, and this green as a chlorophyll which is even present in our plants generally higher plants, and they do the work of photosynthetic activity. That also we studied in this particular category, that the photosynthetic activity means the conversion of that photo or the light into the sources of energy or ATP. Likewise, so there are so many things, and even the word called as pellicle. Pellicle is nothing but instead of a cell wall, they have got the protein rich layer which helps in the flexibility of that particular organism. As you can see that this organism here, it is showing a variety of flexibility. This one here, this one also showing the variety of flexibility, and even in this case also, the first photo, in this case also we can see that a particular flexibility. This is because of pellicle. What do you mean by pellicle? Pellicle is nothing but the presence of a proteinaceous rich layer which is present in the place of a cell wall. Dear students, I hope you are understanding this. Once again, I am telling you repeatedly that during the online classes, it may not be possible to understand all those points at a time. It is recommended that you pause the video, you repeat the video once again, you try to understand the sentences or the quotations or the lines or the words which are coming from me, and try to understand them in a more clearer way. Okay, now let us enter into another category, that is the fourth category of kingdom Protista. Right, the first one was Chrysophyta, the second one was Dinoflagellates, the third one was Euglenoids, and finally the fourth one is slime molds. This is another category. And out of a variety of organisms, these slime molds are quite different in nature. They show a variety of colors, beautiful colors they show. They generally spread onto the surfaces of wood and other things. They have a connection with other organisms also. Likewise, I'll show you the photos of slime molds. You can get a basic idea how they actually work. The fourth variety called as the slime molds, the first one, the first character, that they are saprophytic protistans. Sir, what do you mean by saprophytes? The word is saprophytes. See, the saprophytic nature and decomposing nature is similar in nature, right? They both having the similar kind of explanation. And what do you mean by that? Decomposers or saprophytes are those organisms which feed on dead and decaying matter. If any organism is dead or death of any organism happened, it may be any organism happened, you can include fungi, you can include plantae, you can include animalia, etc. These organisms, when they die off, there will be specific organisms such as bacteria, such as virus, such as even some of the worms, and even some of the insects, and some of the members of protistans also. We see variety of organisms. These organisms feed on those dead organisms and they eat up everything, they fragment up everything, they divide it and they start to eat those inner contents because of their heterotrophic nature. So I am telling you, the slime molds are heterotrophic in nature, they are saprophytic in nature, they cannot process their own food for their growth and development, they are not at all independent, they are completely dependent on the other organisms. The word itself says here as the saprophytic nature. Saprophytic means the organisms which feed on dead and decaying matter. Now, the body moves along decaying twigs and leaves engulfing organic material. This is one of the things that I should have to show you a photo. Now, observe it very clearly. This photo gives us the meaning or explanation of this particular character, and the character says that the organism spreads. The organism produces its own colonies. The organism produces its own group of other cells by spreading onto whom? Onto the dead organism or the dead matter. It may be a wood, it may be any other dead organism. Okay, now you can understand how actually it is in a beautiful way, it is spreading its branches, its colonies like anything. Now see, this is also another thing. This, consider this as a dead twig, and onto this twig, since it is dead, it is feeding onto it, and while feeding, it increasing its own number of colonies, number of slime molds. These are not only yellow in color, there are variety of slime molds in different colors also. So you can see this picturization. This is quite interesting to know and even interesting to see also. Now, coming back to the point, that is, the body moves along the decaying twigs and the leaves, engulfing means the entire thing will be swallowed. Swallowing means engulfing organic material. Now the third one, under suitable conditions, they form an aggregation called as plasmodium, which may grow and spread over several feet. As you seen in the previous photo, that is this one and this one. What do you mean by suitable conditions? See, when an organism is getting the perfect food, perfect shelter, perfect water and perfect environmental conditions, that atmosphere or that area or that condition is called as the suitable conditions, suitable atmospheric conditions or favorable conditions. When there is an increase in the concentration of temperature, we call that as unfavorable condition. When there is a decrease in the temperature, we call it as unfavorable condition. When there is an increase in the water level, flood level, that is also called as unfavorable condition. And there is a complete lack or decrease in the concentration of water, that is also unfavorable conditions. So the organisms undergo these favorable and unfavorable conditions throughout their life, and this is one of the example. So when these particular slime molds, they undergo suitable favorable conditions, they form a group of their own. Aggregation means a combination, a fusion, a group, creation of a group, and that group is called as plasmodium, and that plasmodium can spread into variety of distances. Now you can see this one. See here, this thing I can say as a growth of a less kind of protista, that is a slime mold, and under suitable condition when it is getting the foods, I can say that it is increasing in its colonies, increasing in its place, increasing in its area, right? All this one is called as the plasmodium, which is increasing like anything. This is just the beginning. They can go to several feet, the point says, several feet, just to enhance their communal activities. So in case of communities also, they increase in their numbers, but only under the specific suitable favorable conditions. Now, so I hope you understood the word of plasmodium here. Let us go to next thing. During unfavorable conditions, I am telling you the word is unfavorable conditions. As I told you in the beginning itself, favorable means everything will be happily getting it. Everything, if you think about a food in front of you, the food is present. If you think about shelter in front of you, there will be a big building of home. If you think of water, there will be a variety of cold drinks or drinks in front of you. If you think of anything, it will be present in front of you. That is called as a suitable or favorable conditions, but generally all the organisms will not get those kind of atmospheres at all the times. So this is atmosphere which is having variety of suitable and unsuitable conditions. So suitable is the time wherein which the organism grows. Unsuitable means wherein which the organism will not allow any kind of growth in its body. So the sentence says, during unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and forms fruiting bodies bearing spores at their tips. The spores possess true walls. They are extremely resistant and survive for many years, even under the adverse conditions. The spores are dispersed by air currents. See, this particular point is like the point which is present in variety of organisms, not only in case of slime molds. What these people are saying, that consider this is one of the cellular condition and this is one of the plasmodium. This is one of the plasmodium. It is increasing in its body. These are globular colonies created by the slime molds and under suitable conditions. Okay, now these can grow like anything, but when the conditions are not at all good, what will happen? Now these internal plasmodium things, they differentiate, they break open, and inside of that they create a small spore like structures like this. Small spore like structures, right? Small spore like structures, these are also generally globular, circular in nature. These are the spores, they are not at all getting done, they are differentiating in case of plasmodium. Differentiation here means presence or division or creation of smaller parts of the plasmodium, and in each and every plasmodium we see these kind of spores. And when the conditions once again reoccur, they break open this particular thing and they come out. They come out like these kind of special pores. These things are called as the spores. Okay, students, these are spores. And these spores, with the respect of air, they come outside of the plasmodium and they behave like specialized structures of slime molds which are having the capacity to once again regrow in any of the atmosphere, any of the temperature, any of the water conditions. They are having that particular capacity. Okay, now let me repeat it once again. Under suitable conditions, they grow like anything, and that growing is called as plasmodium. Under unsuitable conditions, that plasmodium breaks open into different structures, breaks open, and individual small plasmodium creates small circular shaped spores in it, and these spores once again detach from the parent body and they enter into the atmosphere and grow as individual slime molds. Okay, students, I hope you are understanding this particular thing. This is basic thing. Generally, it happens in a lot of organisms, right? This is one of the example. Okay. Now, I hope you are getting these points. Pause the video. Once again, I am telling you, pause the video, watch these videos again and again, and then once again come to the conclusion. Now, the last category of this kingdom Protista is the protozoans. The word is protozoans. We finished chrysophytes, we finished dinoflagellates, we finished euglenoids, we finished slime molds. This is the last one called as protozoans. Okay, students, let us understand these varieties, the characteristics, and after that we'll finish off the kingdom Protista. It is very simple one. See, biology is very simple. It needs only one thing, that is interest in variety of organisms. There will be so many different names, different characteristics. We need to understand them. Not in case of by hearting generally, we need to understand. Variety of names giving variety of explanations. We just have to understand it clearly. Okay. Now, dear students, all the protozoans are heterotrophs and live as predators or parasites. Heterotrophs, the organisms which are dependent on other organisms for their growth and development. And they act as predators. Predators are those organisms which feed on prey. Okay, that is also the heterotrophic nature only. Now, parasites. Parasites are those organisms which live inside or outside the body of other organisms for their growth and development. All these are generally, I am telling you, heterotrophic nature only. Now, they are believed to be primitive relatives of animals, which means that they are having some of the characteristics which are present even in the members of kingdom Animalia. What are those characters? Come on, let us understand them one by one. In case of protozoans, we see 4 different varieties. right? Four different varieties. The first one as amoeboid protozoans, they have separate characteristics. Second one, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, sporozoans. I repeat, flagellated protozoans, flagellated along with that amoeboid movement protozoans, ciliated, cilia having protozoans, and then sporozoans, which means that the formation of spore-like organisms. Okay, students, let us enter into the first category called as amoeboid protozoans. Right? So these organisms live in freshwater, seawater, or the moist soil. Point number one says that about its habitat, where actually these organisms can live. These are freshwater and saltwater organisms. These can live in any of the places, and these can even live even in the moist soil. What is the meaning of moist? Moist is nothing but the presence of water droplets. And if that is with respect to soil, the word is moisty soil. We can observe these organisms. They move and capture their prey by putting out pseudopodia as in amoeba. See, this is one of the neat question that we have to understand. Neat question, one of the point. So, in case of amoeba, amoeba is one of the organism that is called as the member of Protista, and that is even named as a protozoan in nature. Okay, and the name itself indicates the amoeboid protozoan. Now, generally what happens, amoeba or other organisms, generally they have a specific body, they have the specific hand, tail, head, different varieties, different characteristics. They have ears, eyes, everything, and those are also specific in nature. Those are also having specific characteristics. They don't change. But in case of these amoeba, we cannot say that the structure of amoeba is circular. The structure of amoeba is square in nature. The structure of amoeba is rectangle in nature. The structure of amoeba is triangular in nature. No. Each and every time this particular amoeba changes in its shape, changes in its particular outer structure. It is not same at all. Its body shows as if it is a true leg, a true poda. Poda means arm, a true hand, a true body, a true structure. But generally, whenever it starts moving from one place to another place, in that movement itself, it shows a variety, it shows a change in its body. That's why the name here is pseudo. Pseudo means false. False means the one which is not at all true, the one which is not at all perfect, the one which is not specific. So pseudopodia means false legs, a false feet, false poda. So this is one of the basic thing which has been asked in many of the examinations. Right? Now, let us go to the next point here. Says that the marine forms have silica shells. Silica shells. Silica shells. Remember this one. This we have already studied this thing in the Chrysophyta, that is in the diatoms. When I was telling you about diatoms and diatomaceous earth and their structures, like the soap bark structure, and because of their silica SiO2 nature, they are used as the chief producers, and in many industries they are used, diatomaceous earth, etc., etc. Now, marine forms have silica shells on their surface similar to diatoms. That is also one of the characteristics of kingdom Protista. Some of them, such as Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica, this is one of the organism called as amoeboid protozoan, which is present in the human body and which enters through the contaminated food, contaminated water, and contaminated sources which can enter into our body. And this generally to our body, it causes a disease or a temporary disorder called as the amoebic dysentery. You might have heard about this word called as dysentery. The complete word is amoebic dysentery, and that is because of the toxic nature of the presence of this particular amoeba called as entamoeba histolytica. Since it is present in the body of host, eating up everything from the host and creating that particular colony or the toxin which is harmful for the body of the host. That's why they have mentioned entamoeba as a parasite. Okay, now let us enter into the next category called as flagellated protozoans. Now, the members of this group are either free living or parasitic. Free living, it is a basic thing that those organisms which are not at all specific to certain areas, specific to groups, specific to colonies, specific to committees, etc. They do not show the group atmosphere work, they do not show coordinated work, they are present anywhere in the atmosphere. They are present anywhere in the soil. They are not at all showing any clumpy nature. They do not show that this is the place where in which I will be living as a group. Free living, which is against of formation of colonies, or parasitic as in amoeboid nature. So these are also having flagella. Flagella means the one which is a tail-like structure, helps in movement from one place to another place. Likewise, the amoeboid protozoans also, since these are parasitic, these cause diseases, right? This disease, one of the disease, sleeping sickness. We'll discuss about these diseases in our future classes also. Now, one of the example here is trypanosoma, right? The word is trypanosoma, right? The previous example was entamoeba histolytica. This one is trypanosoma pallidum. Sometimes it ends with pallidum. Trypanosoma pallidum. Right. The next one is ciliated protozoans. These characteristics. So these are aquatic. Yes, the basic characteristics of kingdom Protista. These actively moving organisms because of the presence of thousands of cilia. See, this is the organism, and these are cilia. Right, these are cilia, the hair-like structures, and these hair-like structures help the organism to move from one place to another place. These are called as the cilia. Right, so cilia are nothing but hair-like structure, help in the movement of the organism from one place to another place. So the next thing, that they have a cavity. Cavity means empty space. Cavity called as gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. Now you can call this one in this body itself. I can make a manageable point like a cavity, like this, and this particular thing we can call this one as the cavity. They are considering this as the gullet. That is also one of the important point. Please do underline this one. Cavity means empty space, gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. Okay. Now the coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes the water laden with the food to be steered into the gullet. Now this particular movement of cilia, helps in the uptake pressure of the water, and when it is moving like anything with the help of cilia, it helps in the intake of water, and the water enters into the gullet, that is called as the empty space, the gullet entering into that empty space, and once again that water with respect to the cilia, it is helping in the movement, and that water comes outside. Entry and outside, it is entering and exiting. So the water enters and leaves. That particular thing we have seen even in our ships also. See, in case of biology, variety of explanations are there. So many inventions that we see. You can take the example as a car design, as a ship design, as an aeroplane design, as a bicycle design. So many designs are there which are specifically connected to these organisms only, one or the other way. You can have a peaceful mind while having that thing, you just remember, you just have a conscious understanding how actually these processes work, how they actually took this idea of movement. You can understand the nature of organisms also. They have taken these as an example or a reference for their creation. So here also I'm telling you that this is the ciliated movement. The organism is moving, water is entering into the gullet and once again steering, once again the water comes outside. Okay, here they have given the example as the paramecium. Okay, then the last one is sporozoans. This includes diverse organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. I told you about the spore formation. Unfavorable conditions only, these spores will be created, and when the favorable conditions come, spore will come outside and they show their own individual creations. Okay, so sporozoans have got specific meaning, which means that these have a stage called as spore forming stage, which seriously happens under unfavorable conditions. Now, so the most notorious is Plasmodium, which causes malaria. One of the important thing. Okay, we even study this thing in our second PUC also. Malaria is caused by a member of kingdom Protista, and that kingdom Protista member is Plasmodium. Variety of names once again here also. Plasmodium vivax we see, Plasmodium falciparum we see. All these are generally toxic in nature, harmful in nature. These are parasitic in nature, heterotrophic in nature. These show so many different stages of their growth, their life cycle, etc. These show toxicity, diseases, and they are generally harmful for the human beings for their day-to-day activities. So that's why the doctors say eat a good food, eat non-contaminated food, eat regularly heated, regularly preheated water, do the exercises. A lot of things are connected to these organisms only. So we need to protect our body, we need to protect our body from these kind of variety of parasites. So once again I'm telling you that protozoans are the specialized kind of organisms which are having the characteristics similar to animals, similar to plants, similar to fungi. We have studied a lot of characteristics relating to protozoa. Dear students, I hope you are understanding these characteristics in a specific way. Once again I'm telling you that pause the video if you have any doubt, right? Pause the video and watch this once again, and if you get any kind of doubts, once again, if it is not possible to understand from the videos, feel free to contact me. Once again, I'll say that if you have any doubts, clear it out. Try to study as clear as possible, as best as possible. Okay, now this is the end of Kingdom Protista. I'm promising you that I'll once again meet in the next video, taking up another characteristic, another video relating to different topic called as a kingdom fungi or kingdom mycota. We'll study about it, that also having different types of characteristics, different names, right? Okay, so till that time, stay well, stay healthy, be conscious, work hard, and I'll definitely meet you in the next video. Okay students, bye and take care.